Today, we're going to explore a story, a quiet story, the story of penicillin.
It's quiet. You know that feeling? Almost too quiet? Just picture it for a second. A small room, the early morning light is just starting to filter in through a window, and you can see the little specks of dust dancing in the air. You'd see some papers scattered on a desk, maybe a few old glass dishes. Nothing about this scene looks heroic. It just doesn't look like a place where history is made.
And yet, this is exactly where the course of millions of lives was quietly changed. You see, the biggest revolutions, they don't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes they just arrive by accident.
So let's start with Chapter 1, An Accidental Discovery, or, as the subtitle puts it, How Neglect Led to a Breakthrough. Our story starts in London, way back in 1928. There's a scientist, his name is Alexander Fleming, and, well, he does what a lot of us do. He decides to take a vacation.
So while he's gone, he leaves a bit of a mess behind. A stack of petri dishes. They're unwashed. They're just ignored. And in that quiet space of neglect, something kind of unexpected starts to happen. A little patch of mold begins to grow, right where it shouldn't.
Okay, so Fleming gets back, and he sees it. Something strange. Now, most people, right, they would have just thrown it all out, cleaned up the mess, but not Fleming. He actually leans in. He looks closer. And what he notices is this perfectly clear circle all around the mold. It's like an invisible shield. And inside that shield, all the bacteria are gone. Just dead.
You know, Fleming's own take on this is really telling. He later said, and I quote, "I did not invent penicillin. Nature did that. I only discovered it by accident." And that word, accident, is really the key to this whole thing.
Which brings us right to our next chapter, the power of noticing. And I love this subtitle, Why Attention is the True Mother of Invention.
Because here's the thing you have to understand. That mold, it probably wasn't a one-time thing. Similar accidents had almost certainly happened in other labs, but nobody stopped. Nobody really looked. And that's the difference, isn't it? Discovery isn't just about being smart. It's about paying attention. It's having the patience to actually stop, look, and ask that simple, powerful question, why?
So Fleming gives the stuff a name. He calls it penicillin. It's such a quiet name for what was, frankly, a revolutionary idea. See, it didn't just slow bacteria down, it wiped them out. And here's the kicker, it did it without harming the patient. That was an idea that back then felt pretty much impossible.
But here's where the story takes a turn, a part that most people don't know. Chapter 3, A Discovery Almost Lost. The subtitle says it all, really. A Decade of Silence.
Yeah, take a look at this timeline. It really shows you the problem. You've got Fleming making his big observation in 1928. But then, look at that gap. For almost a decade, nothing happens. The discovery just languishes. Why? Well, it turns out penicillin was super unstable, really hard to produce in any meaningful amount. Honestly, the world and all of history came this close to missing it entirely.
So what changed? What brought it back from the brink? In a word, war. World War II starts in 1939, and suddenly everything is different. There's this massive, horrific problem. Infection was killing more soldiers than bullets were. Think about that. A simple wound, a cut, that could be a death sentence. And it was that urgent global crisis that finally brought this forgotten mold back into the spotlight.
And that brings us to Chapter 4, From Lab to Lifeline. How do you turn a simple observation into a global cure? And a really crucial point here is that this wasn't just Fleming's story anymore. It took a team. Other brilliant scientists were absolutely essential. You had Howard Florey, the developer, and Ernst Chain, the biochemist. They're the ones who stepped in, took Fleming's quiet little observation, and did the grueling, hard work of turning it into something real, pushing it forward through endless trials, failures, and just immense effort.
And the impact? I mean, it was just staggering. Let's put it this way. Before penicillin, a little infected cut on your finger could literally kill you. It could be a death sentence. After penicillin, that same wound becomes completely treatable. The result was, well, it was millions of lives saved. On the battlefield, sure, but also in hospitals, in homes, everywhere. And it all started because one person noticed a little bit of mold on a dirty dish.
So, what could we take away from all this? Let's get into our final section, the lesson of the mold. What does this quiet little discovery have to teach us today? You know, Fleming himself really understood the incredible weight of what he'd found. Years later, he gave this very stark warning. He said, The thoughtless person playing with penicillin is morally responsible for the death of the man who succumbs to infection. He knew what was at stake.
So when you really look back at it, this incredible breakthrough, it didn't come from some grand 5-year plan. It didn't come from efficiency or optimization or any of the things we value so much today. No, it came from the exact opposite. It came from an error, from a delay, and from simple, plain old human curiosity. It came from just allowing something unexpected to stick around long enough to see what it had to teach us.
And that really leaves us with a quiet question for our own lives, doesn't it? How many potential breakthroughs do we just throw away because they don't fit the plan?
Or let me put it another way. How many answers show up in our lives disguised as simple mistakes, and we're just so quick to clean them up and move on, without ever giving them a second thought?
Because maybe, just maybe, the deepest lesson of that little bit of mold is this. History doesn't always reward the fastest or the most efficient. Sometimes it rewards the one who simply stops and looks.